Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Christian Capitalist Podcast. We're so glad to be joined today by Michele Pavlich, my friend from church and Bible study, who has her own business called Covenant Cookie Creation. So today we're going to talk about all things cookies and small business and praising the Lord through the work that we do as Christian capitalists. Good morning, Michele.
Good morning.
I'm so glad to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us. So I can't wait to talk about cookies. As the people who are watching our podcast today know, I enjoy a few cookies now and then. In fact, my wife, Rebecca, gives me a hard time because I love dessert so much. It's really the highlight of the meal. I don't like to go straight from supper to dessert. I like to change the palate a little bit. And she said, Rich, having a sweet palate changer is just two desserts. I'm like, no, there's really something to it.
Right.
So I'm so glad to be talking to you about cookies and the Lord today. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. All right, so tell us how you got to Destin, Florida. You and I were visiting earlier, and you mentioned that your husband is prior military. Where are y'all from, and how did you meet? And what was your service in the military like as a family member?
Oh, wow. Well, I met my husband when I was 15 years old. He was 17. And through trial and tribulations, we celebrated our 40th anniversary last July.
Congratulations. Oh, that's great.
Thank you. And we started the company on our 40th anniversary.
Wow. All right. So Covenant Cookies is just about a year old.
Yes.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
We're going to talk all about what got you into starting your business. But tell us a little bit about being married 40 years. Your husband was in the military, so I assume y'all lived all over.
I'd like to touch the point where you asked in regards to how we ended up here. Mm-hmm. My husband came TDY here. I had never been. So what he did was got a little bit of sand and put it in a bottle, and it traveled wherever we traveled. And then we were getting ready to retire, and we had no clue where we were going. And we looked at the sand, and he said, let's go to Destin.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Wow, that's great. Yeah, the Emerald Coast, I tell people all over the nation. By the way, for those of y'all who are watching the podcast today from other parts of the country, we're in Destin, Florida, which is part of the Emerald Coast. The sugar white sand that Michele was talking about, her husband brought from temporary duty, is so pure. It literally is like walking on sugar. We don't have seashells here, and the effect of a couple of 100 yards off the coast into this blue water makes the water appear emerald green.
Yeah.
And so it's just a beautiful place. If you haven't come to the Emerald Coast, come to Destin. Come visit us.
Please do. Yeah. It wasn't a lot of sand. It was just a little bit, but it was enough to
remind you. That's great.
Yeah. So, and I had never been until we pulled up.
Until you moved here. Wow. What a leap of faith.
So.
And how long ago was that?
Well, talk about a leap of faith. So we put every material item we had in storage. And that's where it stayed. And we traveled from Alaska to Florida in, 37 days, I think it was, crossed, and we stopped and seen family along the way, but it was 66, I want to say 100 miles.
Wow.
Is what I want to say. And we did the Alaska highway and the whole shebang.
Oh, wow. And so what kind of vehicle were you in?
We actually were in two. So we had our stuff in a truck and the stuff that we needed in the truck. And then in the SUV, we had the stuff that we hauled in and out of the hotel. And our youngest daughter was getting ready to join the military, had just graduated from high school herself. And my husband actually swore her into the military.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what branch?
She did the Air Force, and she served for 8 years.
Okay.
And then our other daughter did the Army, and he commissioned her in.
Wow.
Same year that we retired.
Isn't that cool? 2009.
2009.
And what branch was he in?
Air Force. And that our daughter that he did the commission for is Army. So we're all branch. And we never took our items out of storage. So when we arrived here in the Panhandle, we lived on lawn chairs, an air mattress. We ate on paper plates. We had one cell phone, one little computer, and our biggest decision was, is it the beach or the pool? And we had to figure out our new self.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So you like it here.
Of course.
And we're all better off that y'all are here.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. So you and I have gotten a chance to meet through Bible study.
Yes.
At the church down the street from here called Destiny Worship Center, which has a business, a Bible study of folks who are small business owners.
Yeah.
And I'm just thrilled that it was the first Bible study in America, but hopefully not the last, that chose the Christian capitalist as its subject. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about your business. I brought a card so everybody can see. We'll, of course, put this in the show notes. I'm not sure you can see that, but there's a beautiful picture of Michele on the back with an assortment of cookies and smiling, which I just love. You have a beautiful, beautiful smile on your face.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thinking about business and cookies. So what got you into this business?
It's very biblical, and my faith is very important to me. And first and foremost, that is where it brought me. God gave me the cookie. And when he gave me the cookie, we decided on a name. And Rich went ahead and held up the card. But actually, what the card represents is Covenant Cookie Creations. Just by saying the name, the seed is planted. And what that seed is, it's God's mustard seed. It's not my seed. And our logo has the mustard seed on it. You'll also notice it's triple C. And if people know us as triple C, I love it. And to them, it can be Covenant Cookie Creations, which is amazing. But when I hear it, I hear Christ Cross and Church.
Wow, that's beautiful. Christ Cross and Church.
So I pray over every cookie, not a prayer for me. It's a prayer that the Lord's seed is planted, and however the individual that partakes in a cookie, that seed is planted, and it's all up to his glory.
Isn't
and
I give him
all the glory.
So you have an opportunity to pray over every cookie and say, let the seed be planted. What got you thinking about that prayer in particular? I just love the notion of the mustard seed on your business card and the thought that a cookie can plant the seed like that. Where did that come from? It's beautiful.
Well, I'll try not to cry. Faith is very important to me, as I mentioned. And as I mentioned, I met my husband when I was 15 years old. Also, when I was 15 years old, I have two sisters. I'm the baby. The one in the middle, named Tammy, was diagnosed with lupus. And watching her trial and tribulations throughout her journey and her illness made my faith begin to grow. And it was through the love of a cookie that was in our hometown and a cookie that was through the love of my husband's grandmother that when it was given to me how to reach people through my faith was a cookie.
And that's how you do it. So where in Ohio did you and your husband meet, and you and your family and your sister Tammy, where did y'all live in Ohio that had this bakery and your grandmother involved in this story? It's wonderful.
A little place called Elyria, Ohio. Okay. Elyria. High school sweetheart.
For those who, that's fantastic. Yeah. For those who don't know Ohio very well, where is Elyria near?
By Cleveland, not too far from Cleveland.
Gotcha, gotcha. So your high school sweethearts, and then and it sounds like there was a bakery in Elyria that is famous for its cookie.
There was a bakery called Link's. Anybody in Elyria would know it. And they had a pink cookie. And the pink cookie was a staple that all the kids, everybody, all the families knew about. And wherever we lived, because we jumped on the Military Express, so we traveled throughout, my parents would bring us the pink cookie.
The pink cookie.
And it would bring back that fond memory of home.
So is this a vanilla cookie with pink icing, or was the whole cookie pink?
They put a pink glaze over top of it, and it just dripped, so it just referenced, you just called it the pink cookie.
Pink cookie. I love that. Yeah. And so how did your grandmother fit into this story? You mentioned that I guess it was grandmother on your side.
My grandmother on my side lived with me. So she stayed in our house for several years, and her and I shared a bedroom. So her prayers and her influence was very strong in my life. I was her only grandchild that had that opportunity to do that, and I'm very grateful for it. The cookie was Brian's grandmother, and she just loved to do these cookies, and she also was very blessed in doing nut rolls. But anytime we traveled from all of our military assignments, we would always come back to Elyria, and when we would show at Grandma's house with a gallon of milk, she would bring out the cookies, and she would just have a spread, and she didn't care how many we ate. She didn't care how many hours it took her to decorate those cookies. She didn't care what time she put into it. She just wanted to embrace us and see the joy we had when we embarked on those cookies.
And it's I don't mean this in the South we would say in an ugly way, but for something as simple as a cookie, right? That the power that comes through that, through family and through nostalgia and community, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Do you experience that? I mean, did you experience that then, and is that something you see now in owning a cookie company?
My husband and I experience it all the time. And anybody who purchases the cookies and then gives the cookies away, they feel that same excitement. It's kind of really cool.
I think it's cool too.
It's really cool.
That you say this prayer of planting the seed in whatever way God is going to
whatever way.
And then thinking about, gosh, because I hadn't really thought about this until you just said it, but thinking about then what happens when someone receives that cookie and then gives it. This is literally how the word spreads. And so tell us about your business. First of all, enjoying a cookie, enjoying a pink cookie from Link's Bakery in Elyria, Ohio is one thing. Starting a business where you make cookies is totally different. So for those of us in our audience, and we have many folks, different walks of life, high school age all the way to retiree, many women in particular, as a woman starting your own business, what was that process like? And what would you say to women who are listening to this today who are interested in starting their own business?
Listen to your heart. Listen to the voice that you hear from your prayers and step out in faith. And if that's not a cookie, whatever the vessel you can be to spread your faith and plant a seed with somebody with the talent that God gifted you as, go for it.
Go for it. Oh, I love that. I love that.
What I didn't share is I make every cookie myself. I make every cookie, and each cookie takes me 3 days. What I didn't get a chance to share with you, and I didn't come to light until Easter time frame, when I was actually making cookies for Dave. When God sent his son and Jesus was crucified, he rose again in 3 days.
Wow.
It took 3 days, and I have tried to cheat that cookie. I have tried to fast produce that cookie. I have tried it, let me tell you, and it takes 3 days. And I could not understand why.
And now you know.
And now I know. I will never rush the cookie. It takes 3 days.
You can't rush the resurrection either. I love it.
So when
we're all better off for it.
When somebody has a cookie and the seed is planted. However the seed is planted, whatever happens, let me tell you, the process has taken 3 days.
Isn't that something? So tell us about the process. This is wonderful. I don't actually, as many cookies as I've consumed in my life, I don't know how they're made other than I know they come from an oven. So what's that process look like? And what do you think, now that you've had a chance to analyze the process, think about ways to expedite it, what is it that takes 3 days?
The whole process. I mean, you have to get the supplies. You have to mix the supplies. The supplies has to wait. And then it has to have the certain timestamp on everything. So it's each step, it's each mix stepping out in your face.
Isn't that something?
It is. It's really super cool the way the whole thing works. So I can say I throw a little bit of flour, I add a little bit of this. I don't use a lot of salt. I throw it away as much as I can because we don't want, salt too much on us. But with saying that, it's one step at a time.
And so what kind of cookies do you make? I'm imagining, because your business started
It's a shortbread style. It's a sugar cookie.
Yeah.
And it's a shortbread style, so it has more of a harder texture. However, the cookie can be enjoyed 3 ways, which I didn't talk about.
Yeah.
The first way is just have at it, because they're great that way. The second way is to just buy them and freeze them. And when you want them, the way that I seal them, you just take them out and put them on your counter or on your placemat, your dinner arrangement, your party, whatever. They just thaw out naturally and they'll just be fine.
Okay.
Now, for those of you that like a warm cookie, you remove them from my little sealed bag and you mic for 10 to 15 seconds and the cookies go soft and the icing stays hard.
Wow.
The icing is a royal icing, so it has I can't use buttercream because I am cottage law, because what we didn't share is I'm not in a brick and mortar.
Oh, yeah.
I am right now out of the house, and I love that.
What is cottage law? I hadn't heard of that.
It's where you do it out of your house and you don't have a brick and mortar. So there's standards and protocols that you have to follow.
So when you're making the cookies over the course of these 3 days, and you get a chance to pray over them, how many cookies are we talking about? Is this something you're doing all day and you produce 100 or something like that? Give us a sense of the volume that you do.
It depends. It truly depends. So when I first started, we do markets. So you'll see me out around town, and then I'm out at events, and then we've got some big projects coming up, so I have some stuff there.
Gotcha.
So the orders that come in, I accept them. They have a process that I have to follow. And then the volume, I handle the volume as I can. So it fluctuates.
So we're going to have all of your information in what's called the show notes at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
So for somebody who, for instance, is having a birthday party.
Sure.
And they said, hey, I'd like you to do a birthday cookie that says happy birthday, whatever. Rebecca's my wife. Her birthday is in July. So to say, happy birthday, Rebecca. Do you design it and then the person approves it on the other side? Do y'all work on it together? What does kind of the design part look like?
So I was going to save this, but since we're into this part, we'll just go ahead and have at it. Okay?
Right, so, like cookie option number 1, which I'm a big fan of. Just have at it.
So just have at it. So basically, you called me up and you've said, Rebecca's birthday. I would ask a couple of questions. When do you need it by? Because I have to make sure I can hit it, right? And then the quantity. And then I have 2 shapes, a circle or a square. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to tell me. You have to tell me if you have a logo. You have to tell me if you have a photo. If you have a favorite memory, a favorite word for her, or a Bible verse, or a funny saying that she would always say, like pick up your shoes, don't leave your shoes at the front door, or I love you, remember my last kiss, whatever it is, just tell me, and I create a cookie.
Oh, look at this. Michele, God bless you. Everybody, you're not going to believe this. I'm not sure how appetizing it is, but the cookie that Michele has made features yours truly on it with the Christian Capitalist logo up on top.
Now,
isn't that wonderful?
Now, take this out, and you just lift it.
Oh, I see.
And then you get to serve
That's great. And it says the Christian Capitalist right here on the side. That's wonderful, Michele.
So,
God bless you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. On the back of every cookie is my logo, my QR, and all of the ingredients. So there you have it.
And a little confetti.
And a little confetti I put in here. However, not all of them come in these cute little containers. Packaging is optional depending upon what you want. I also do stuffed balloons that are kind of huge.
Thank you. I'll put this right here so everybody can continue to see it.
Okay, so the stuffed balloon is a different option. It brings out a different type of excitement. Mm-hmm. Those cookies would be inside the balloon. And the balloon is, if I stand up, it can be up to here.
Wow.
And it comes down to the ground, and there's different layers to it. So you pop the balloon, and the cookies come out like a piñata. However, if you want the balloon to be your centerpiece, we put a couple of cookies inside of it for your wife, so you can have. But I have the balloons in a bucket. So you pick the balloon up, and then all the cookies are inside the bucket, and you just pass them out that way. So there's multiple ways to do it.
Isn't that something?
And that brings out the excitement of Christmas.
Yeah.
That brings out the excitement of Easter.
Sure.
The two best holidays biblically to represent.
Right. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that.
There's a lot about my cookie.
Yeah, exactly. My goodness, what a complex operation. I love it.
So it's not about the flour and the sugar.
Exactly. Well, I have to say, everybody, you can see, I put the, I hope you can still see Michele, but notice there, that is, I think, the photograph of me from the back of the book or the website. So how on earth do you get that onto a cookie?
Yeah, I twiddle my nose and click my heels 3 times. No, there are some equipments involved, but everything is done by me, by him.
Isn't that cool? And right there in your kitchen.
Mm-hmm. In my home.
So you're sitting there last year, or maybe even several years ago, and said, I'm going to start a cookie business. What got you thinking about that? Because it's a long way from enjoying pink cookies to starting your own business. You gave some advice to our entrepreneurs who are listening today, but what called you into this this ministry, really?
Okay, you want it, here it goes. If I haven't surprised Julian yet, it's still coming. So the first of every January, we start off with a biblical fasting. It usually will last 21 days.
Wow.
We always start a couple of days early because my birthday is the 23rd. So I like to be done by the 23rd so I can have cake.
Right.
But anyway, it starts with a biblical fasting. Now, I mentioned lupus. I mentioned my age. And I've mentioned my growth with my faith. So it has now been over 100 straight weeks that I do a body cleanse. With doing that, it's not just about, it's what you put in your body and the toxins that you are cautious about. So with doing that, it's a whole different realm. And I will tell you, for fasting for 15 straight years, at different levels, depending upon my walk is at the time, as well as doing this, something clicked inside of me. And when it clicked, I totally heard to join a small group, which I have never done in 30 years. Yeah. And this is the 30th episode I've been told right before we started.
Exactly. 30 years without a small group. And now you're in the small group that's done the Christian Capitalist in your episode 30 of the episode. Michele, I've said it enough. And we'll keep saying it, there are no coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the Holy Spirit moving in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So you're in the fast.
So I'm in the fast, and for the first time in my fast this year, I decided to write my girls an email every day. And I did a biblical outreach to them. And that was the first time they've seen my faith. However, it's matured. And because we don't always live together, because they're, married and have families of their own, they haven't seen me at all levels. So I knew something clicked. And habits that I had before were broken. Fears that I had before were broken. Things that intimidated me were broken. Anything I've done in my life, I've never been ashamed of. I've owned it, but it just was gone. So with doing all of that, I joined this small group. And we haven't touched on it yet, but we'll come back to reflection. And that was a very big part for me. And during the end of my biblical fasting of 21 days, I heard very loud to join the small group, step out in faith, and do this cookie. And I knew it was all about it.
So many folks who listen to our podcast have talents and abilities that, for whatever reason, they are not employed. And it may be because they're not ready to step out in faith. It may be because they're not in a position where they can use those talents or abilities. It may be because they're hearing that voice and they don't know what it sounds like.
Exactly.
So tell us about the fast and the voice. Because people tell me, as a pastor, people tell me all the time, I wish God would talk to me like he talked to Moses in a burning bush. I'm like, yeah, sometimes that would be great. You're there looking at the bush and it's talking to you. But then other times I think, God's probably talking to you and you're just not hearing.
That's because it's Satan's job to put unnecessary chaos around the voice. And it's not until you tune your ear to hearing it. You'll jump off the hamster wheel you've been on and all the chaos that's going around in your life and say, I hear it. And it's when you tune your ear. And through the course of being in the midst of my mother and my grandmother throughout all the years, and throughout all of the trial and tribulations of life, because we all go through it, my ear tuned and then it left because I watched my sister suffer of lupus. So I allowed myself to jump back on that hamster wheel and allow hurt, to allow pain, to allow deafness to come within me. And it wasn't until 15 years for me, I guess I'm a slow learner, but
15 years is small compared to a lot of people, right? So don't you worry.
Yeah. Took me 15 years of every January doing a biblical fasting and not understanding what that truly was at certain times, because prior to us coming on air, I had shared that I was raised Methodist, married Catholic, and then we were Assemblies of God. So you hear tidbits along the way, and it wasn't until my mind was completely clear that I heard that. And by biblical fasting, and like I said, now I couldn't even tell you how many weeks, over 100, it's been for a body cleanse. And it does. It makes a difference.
Isn't that something?
It just clicked for me.
And helps you get rid of the distractions. What a wonderful way to put that.
All the nonsense that you carry in your heart and your mind is gone. It's connected. So if your heart and your mind is in one, the rest of you is whole. and you just walk in the footsteps. You don't be afraid.
And that spiritual discipline that you developed with the body, with the fasting and the cleansing, help feed the soul. Isn't it wonderful how they're connected?
And isn't it, you can go into any doctor's office, you can go into any store, and you can pick up any type of health product. But the only part that's not watched over is your soul. So that is the one thing that Satan's here to take. Because we are all a shell.
And so you mentioned your sister Tammy and her lupus condition. What was at the end of 15 years, and you came back to a closer walk with God? What was that like for you? What was that like for Tammy? I mean, was she along with you in that journey?
I met my husband when I was 15. That's probably where you got 15.
Oh yeah.
So my sister suffered for 20 years before she lost her battle. Her faith was always there. It wavered, and she suffered. So when a person suffers and their body starts to change, things happen inside.
Yeah.
So for that, I was with her. There's a lot that goes into that. I was the last one with her, and she allowed me to leave that night because there were many days and nights that I slept at the hospital with her, sometimes in the window sill in her hospital room, sometimes next to her, sometimes on a couch, just wherever it was. So I seen that, and I experienced that. And then she allowed me to leave that day because she said, go home to mom and dad. So we said our prayers. We said everything. She was completely at peace. And I was with my parents when we received the phone call that she passed.
Wow. She passed
so she knew that I needed to be with them, and she allowed it.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? God talks to us in all kinds of different ways.
So what I want to also step on is today is my father's death date of 4 years. But what I want to share with each and every one of you is I shared that it was my mother and my grandmother that always made sure it was church, always made sure about the knowledge. However, it was my father that passed in front of my sister and I. My other sister, she's older, she's 9 years older than I. And when he passed, he allowed us to witness it. And it changes the way you can see how families can be separated, and you can see how they can be joined. And he allowed that. And diversity and division was removed.
Wow. Isn't that something?
And today is 4 years.
Today is 4 years.
And it seems so much longer because when you don't have a parent anymore to call every day, you miss that. But in reality, we all have a father. So if you're not calling your living parents, you have a daily connection to the Heavenly Father.
Exactly. Well, let me thank you for joining us today, especially on this day of mourning, but also one of celebration.
Yeah.
I love that Jesus died on the cross for us and rose again in 3 days, and that your cookies take 3 days to prepare. That's just fantastic.
It is. It's pretty cool.
Tell us about, you mentioned going to fairs and markets. Tell us about the business. How's it going? And how can our listeners help? All your information is going to be in the show notes.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. But let me ask you a question. Do you do cookies just here on the Emerald Coast and in Destin, or can you ship them anywhere?
The balloon is only available here for local, but we do ship anywhere in the continental U.S.
Great.
So we do that. Again, the information is there. We can just turn this right around, and here's my QR code. You can zoom right in, and there's my website.
We're going to do that right now. All right, everybody, scan away. Look at that. Put that in the show notes. That's fantastic.
So with that, yeah. Don't miss an opportunity.
Exactly. It's all about marketing.
When God gives it to you, go for it.
That's right. That's great. Well, so, Pastor Dave Holland was here, who's also in this Bible study, and mentioned in 2 Corinthians 5, Paul talks about praying for doors of opportunities to be opened. And so you've got a big opportunity coming up later on in July. Your husband was the Air Force. You got a daughter who's Air Force, a daughter who's Army. My dad was career Air Force. I was born on a small military base in Japan.
Thank you for his service and yours. Yes.
And I was in the Navy.
Yeah.
So we got all the branches covered.
Yeah.
So you got a big opportunity coming up with the United States Navy.
Yes, I do.
And the Pensacola Chamber of Commerce. Would you tell everybody about that?
So actually, it's on our 41st anniversary, which is July 14th, which will be 1 year of the launch of the company. The air show, I believe, is the 12th and 13th. It's in that same weekend. We will be designing, along with the Pensacola Chambers of Commerce, the Friends and Family Cookie for their event. And then I'll also be on site selling cookies, having them available for purchase for people who are attending the air show.
Oh, I just love that. The Pensacola Beach Air Show.
Yeah.
So for those of y'all who are not either familiar with the Blue Angels or this air show, the Blue Angels is the formal name is the Naval Flight Demonstration Squadron. It's basically F-18 Hornets painted this beautiful blue color with yellow trim. Yeah. And they're headquartered here at Pensacola, I say here on the Emerald Coast, at Pensacola Naval Air Station. That is their home. And every year they take the 4th of July as a federal holiday and then take the week after to do the Pensacola Air Show. It's centered on Pensacola Beach, and the water tower there on the beach is shaped like or painted like a beach ball. It's fantastic. Yeah. And what would you think, Michelle? Did the Chamber of Commerce folks tell you how many people come to this air show?
They said to plan for 150 to 150,000 people.
150,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cookies.
That's a lot of cookies. So I may not be able to do individual orders during that time.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. For someone who's making all these cookies by hand in a 3-day process that you pray over each one, how are you getting ready? Are you already starting to bake to get ready, or?
There's a process through it all.
We're recording this by the way on May 12th. Have you already started working?
No, I have not. No. So again, it's a process. It just depends. I pretty much handle it week by week, and then I make sure that my commitments are made for that week. And then I move forward with the following. So to have a lot of backup supplies, I do have that. However, I won't fast produce this until a couple of weeks prior.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Great. And so you're going to be there at the air show in your own tent for Covenant Cookie Creations?
Yes, I will.
That's fantastic. So look her up.
Yeah.
If you go to the air show.
And then right after that, I have been blessed to do a wedding, and that's a ship order that goes way out to Colorado.
Wow.
So it's just like one right after the other.
Yeah.
So the amount of demand that comes in, the sooner the order, the sooner I can commit. And with placing the order, 50% is required down to guarantee it. And then the final payment is due right before it is either shipped or received.
Gotcha. That's wonderful.
But we do cookies. I have mailed out to Vermont, to Maine. They've gone all the way the other way.
Coast to coast.
Coast to coast, pretty much. But it is here in the Panhandle where my heart is. And it is here in the Panhandle where Covenant Cookies will stay. I hope to hear from each and every one of you.
I love that. Oh, I love that. All right, so Lynx Cookies in Elyria, Ohio, was kind of around at the outset when you were growing up.
Yeah.
Have you thought about a bakery like Lynx as an end goal, or you like doing this at home and then just kind of shipping it out and doing markets?
I think it has pros and cons to both. And I haven't filled it out enough to figure out which will work best. So TBA on that. I'm not sure. We would one day like to do a brick and mortar. However, I believe my plans are bigger as to a franchise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we will see where the opportunity is there. And if that's out of my home in other places, who knows what that will be? I don't. I just know that the cookie is a gift that I received and I want to share it.
I love it. And as you're talking about this is such a great opportunity, Michele, to talk about the next step, right? Mm-hmm. So you gave some encouragement to entrepreneurs, in particular, women who are interested in starting their own business. Now you're a year old.
Yeah.
Right? You're heading into, you're a toddler, basically. You're getting to be a toddler. The book of James tells us that as we grow our businesses, that we don't just say, I'm going to go here and do this, I'm going to go here and do that, but that we ask for God's blessing and his guidance.
Right.
So what does that look like as a small business owner when you're trying to think of the next step, and whether it's developing a storefront or franchising? What kind of prayers do you say in that regard to give guidance to our other small business owners who have made it through that first year but are now wondering where the fork in the road comes, which direction to take?
Well, we started off at our very first event, which I didn't touch on, was K-Love Radio. So touching base on that, we joined our first chamber of commerce here in our local area, and it merged to 2 chambers in our area. Now we are in our 3rd chamber in this area. We are also a sponsor of South Walton Athletic Department app. So we support the teams out there. We helped with the Lady Hawks a little bit in regards to their season, as well as now we are a sponsor or contributor, I guess would be a better word, to K-Love Radio. So as I mentioned, all the hospital rooms and all the different locations, K-Love has always been essential to hearing and filling the room wherever I was.
K-Love is a radio station here on the Emerald Coast.
They're based pretty much everywhere you can hear their radio. So throughout the travels, I would fill my ear with their radio.
Wow.
But I never sponsored, I never contributed. So K-Love came here August of last year, and I had my very first set with K-Love Radio. And then when they did their last fundraiser, I stepped out in faith and through the book, through the class, we joined.
Gotcha.
We joined K-Love, and then of course we support our local church at the best we can at the time.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
And the company is laid on the foundation of faith. So the preparations is put into place by, again, tuning your ear, but also being out in the community, also hearing and seeing the need and providing help where help is due.
Michele, I'm so glad you looped back to that. As we were talking beforehand, you mentioned after your husband retired from the Air Force in 2009, there was a period of time where you were kind of looking for different opportunities and not sure, where God was calling you, whether it's a place to live or a vocation, but you always had a component of volunteering.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because the Christian Capitalist is about giving to the poor and needy, but it doesn't necessarily mean financial gifts. Giving of your time and your talent is also an important component of that. So tell everybody a little bit about what you did as a volunteer.
Oh, very blessed to be a volunteer. That is, people think that you're helping other people, but in reality, they're helping you. Wow. Because what they give to a person who is receiving that far surpasses any nail I've put into a wall or any food I've put on a plate. So in volunteering, we've done Habitat for Humanity, very wonderful program. In Ohio, we did a program called Target Ministry. If you don't know that one in Dayton, Ohio, please look it up and go.
We'll put that in the
fabulous.
Okay.
Fabulous.
And say it again.
Target Ministry in Dayton, Ohio. Okay. Talk about an outreach program. Wonderful. My husband and I would give out date night and put our date night funds in the pot and sit in the sanctuary with all the people who needed to attend church and hear their testimonies and then serve them food. Wow. We did it through holiday seasons too.
And that was your date night? Mm-hmm. Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's a wonderful program. I highly, highly, highly. The one that I did a lot was on a weekly basis. I volunteered at different churches, some here in Destin, Florida, and some in Georgia. I cooked 100 meals on myself to provide for either the church that was attending on Wednesday nights, be it for their youth, or for the congregation. So I would do all the shopping, all the prep work, the cleanup.
Wow. And would you cook this at the church? Because a lot of churches.
Some of it I did at home and carried it in. Mm-hmm. It just depended upon what the meal was. Mm-hmm. So the house is bigger, so I would have more of my supplies on hand, type of stuff. But the church was always gracious to allow me to do this. Mm-hmm. So it was on my heart.
Well, and I'm sure they appreciated you making food for the youth group.
Yeah, it fluctuated, on whatever the need was. Right. But yeah, I loved every minute.
That's wonderful. And so what part of the philosophy, the theology of the book is that we are made in God's image. Mm-hmm. And we know that he works. Mm-hmm. So we're made in his image to work. Mm-hmm. And we know that he gives.
Yeah.
Because he gave us life in creation, and he gave us his son, Jesus. And so we are made in his image to give as well. When you give of your time.
So if we follow his covenant, we have his creations, and we have the seed. Each and every one of
a company, by the way.
Each one of us has that gift and talent in one way or another.
It's just a matter of finding it.
It's how he gave it to me. Yes.
So you and I had a chance to talk a little bit during Bible study. You've spent the last 3 months reading The Christian Capitalist and discussing it. Rather than just say, what did you think? As you went through the discussion of hard work and generous giving, how did your view on those topics change, if at all? Like now that you work and you've had a chance to read this book, have you thought differently about what work is and why we do it?
I will say, you writing the book and us as a group coming together to study it, and the capacity of having all the other businesses inside the group with us, coming in if they were part of our church congregation or not, gave an avenue for partnership throughout our community, planting that seed, that mustard seed that each and every one of us have, right? So that was a gift. So reading the book, for me, it was chapter 5 with the reflection. So I used to say it to the kids all the time. You have a good angel and you have a bad angel. And the one angel is going to say, do it, do it, do it. It's more fun. You'll get in trouble, but it'll be all right. And the other one would say, be sensible. Somebody's watching, and it's only your own reflection. Be prepared. Who's watching you? It could be me scolding you. However, it's your reflection that matters. So when it came to the reflection, that's what just hit me like a ton of bricks. And it wasn't until reading that and isolating myself to hear the voice, I wrote this.
Because you're talking in particular about in chapter 5, where we were talking about the theology of work and what Jesus had to say about work. Right?
Yeah.
All right.
So it's that reflection. So the reflection is, I get nervous when I read, so if I pass this over, I'll pass it over. So just, it is what it is, you guys. So
You're doing great.
Here we go. The unseen scars of our hearts, a profoundly personal echo of Christ's sacrifice. marks the beginning of our own understanding. The initial nail that we mentioned before. This understanding shapes the cross we bear daily as life unfolds. While the initial scars remain hidden, the cross becomes visible through our actions, the compassion we show, the integrity we uphold, and the love we extend. This outward expression reflects the inward transformation. When we look in the mirror, our reflection is often a blend of our inheritance worth and human imperfections. It's a starting point, not necessarily the complete image God intended. The journey of faith, guided by moments of the nail, the cross, and prayer. It's about striving to align this reflection with the divine image. It's about allowing Christ's sacrifice to heal our scars and reshape our lives, making the cross we carry a clearer reflection of his love and service to the world. Each day offers an opportunity to bridge the gap between the image we see and the image God created us to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. That is beautiful and poetic.
That is the reflection. It's not our reflection, because we want to make sure our hair and our makeup and our nails are done. However, it's not our reflection that we want to see. We want to see the reflection God created us to be.
To be, which we always strive for.
Right.
Michele, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
And by the way, I was telling Michele earlier that the signature question on the podcast is, what does it mean to be a Christian capitalist? That's it.
That's it. That's
That
it.
is gorgeous, gorgeous.
Read the book, go to a group, don't hold back. And if you have a calling, pick up the phone, answer it, step out in your faith, and just do it.
Michele, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. We really
I hope you enjoy your cookie. I want
I
feedback.
can't wait.
I want feedback.
Exactly. Thank you again for joining us. Michele Pavlich, everybody, from Creative Cookie Creations.
Covenant.
Covenant.
Yeah.
Cookie Creations. See, I got the 3 C's. Covenant Cookie Creations. And thank you. God bless you in your work. And if you get a chance to go to the Pensacola Beach Air Show in July, please look for her tent and find
say
her.
Hello.
Yeah, and say hello.
Say hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for joining us on the Christian Capitalist Podcast, where the more we make, the more we give.